Versatile Mage. Chapter 108. Leaving the shelter. Isn't that Mo Fan? Are you kidding me? What's he going to do outside now that he has already arrived at the safety shelter? Zhu Musheng was resting in the camp to the side when he happened to see Mo Fan leaving the safety shelter. Shit. I will never think about leaving this place in my lifetime. Yeah. Mo Fan is far too courageous. For the students, the other side of the safety shelter was a nightmare they would never forget. They had finally reached this place after great difficulties, and no matter what people said, they would not take a single step outside. They were unable to understand just what exactly was giving Mo Fan the courage to once again tread outside of the safety shelter. The truth was, Mo Fan also thought that he wouldn't take another step outside after he arrived at the safety shelter. After all, anything could be put to the back of his head compared to his own life, so how could he have the intention to bitterly save people? Regretfully, he didn't think he was qualified. He was unable to achieve the stage Zhu Dawang was at. However, in his mind floated the girl who couldn't walk, lingering in the area with the highest number of magical beasts. Her pure eyes were filled with fear and helplessness, and just like Zhang Yinglu, leaving this world with a yearning and not knowing what had happened. A lot of people think they have an insignificant role within society, and they are unable to do anything about matters with high principles. They would even sigh in admiration over the fact that there are people who would do things without a care for their own lives. In reality, there are many things in their hearts that had already surpassed others. What they don't realize is that being able to make a quick decision during a time of crisis is a kind of instinct, and whether that action affects their life is something they have no second thoughts about. The current Mo Fan was like that. He never thought about whether he should go out of the safety shelter or not. His mind was already occupied by the scary thought. All of the molecules in his body were telling him not to let such a tragedy befall Xingxia. Thus, when the squad told Mo Fan with certainty that the girl he was looking for had most likely died, and that going out was a futile action, Mo Fan still decided to go with the squad to Mingwen area with a fixed resolution. Even if the probability of finding her in this disaster was very low, even if the hope of her still being alive was uncertain, Zhu Dawang had an adequate understanding of the entirety of Bo City, and having him as the guide would avoid many unnecessary inconveniences. In the end, the water magician of the hunter squad didn't choose to follow him out. Every individual had their own choices. Neither Officer Cheng nor Zhu Dawang were forcing them. Going along with this mission were the two instructors Mo Fan was familiar with, Luo Yunbo and Pan Lijin. The one who was responsible for the squad was precisely Officer Cheng, an intermediate magician. Officer Cheng was an official protector of Bo City, and this incredibly difficult mission had to be handled by him personally. There were a total of 8 people in the squad, not a large number. On one hand, it was because having a large number of people might easily allow the magical beasts to sense their actions. On the other hand, there were no other people they could dispatch with them. Being able to dispatch an intermediate magician could already be considered a really good thing. After all, there were many warrior-class magical beasts roaming around Bo City, and only intermediate magicians were able to handle those magical beasts. Meshin Highway was the best shortcut from the safety shelter directly to the Mingwen area in the city. The highway bridge had already been turned into a mess by abandoned cars, completely impassable. One could vaguely see a few magical beasts figures scuttling on top of the cars on the highway bridge, looking for the citizens who thought hiding in the cars would be safe. At this moment, on the chaotic highway bridge, 8 black motorcycles were silently and flexibly following along the pedestrian sidewalk at the side of the bridge, which was basically unobstructed. The cycles' steel frames were very flat. They looked like 8 African panthers running around from afar. The dim light from after the rain would barely reflect from their luster. Although this kind of motorcycle that was made with black stone will not be discovered by magical beasts, it is still clear that riding a summoned beast gives you a certain advantage in this kind of situation. Officer Cheng said. Unfortunately, the summoners also have their own missions to attend to, Pan Lijin replied. Officer Cheng nodded, no longer saying anything. At this moment, Mo Fan was also operating a black motorcycle. He had grasped the technique of riding one back in middle school. The teachers in the magic schools had told them that all kinds of magical equipment could easily attract magical beasts. After all, phones, computers, cars, and motorcycles were all created using different elemental magic blueprints. They all needed the energy of magic stones to operate. The energy from the magic stones could easily be sensed by magical beasts. The magic stones made into scientific equipment might not have a huge attraction to the magical beasts, but magic stones in fast-moving devices, those were different. Just like how many animals have no awareness of immobile things, but once something starts moving, they start to chase. This was the same reasoning with the magical beasts and vehicles. Thus, other than the equipment that had been custom modified by the military, using scientific equipment would definitely attract the magical beasts in the surroundings. The radius of influence depended on the magical beast's senses. After a discussion between a few soldiers, Mo Fan came to understand a very important piece of information. A magician's personal tool of transportation was usually a summoned beast. The summoned beast's aura was similar to a magical beast, and those who rode a summoned beast outside of the city wouldn't be easily found by magical beasts. Unfortunately, the vast majority of first elemental awakenings would only be of a basic element. The dimensional element of summoning magic could only be awakened when you reached the intermediate or advanced level. Thus, summoned beasts weren't actually that common. After passing along Meshin Highway, their progress could be considered very fast. However, as they were about to arrive in Mingwen area, the bridge had collapsed ahead of them, probably because a warrior-class magical beast had passed through this place. Thus, they had no choice but to abandon their cycles and walk instead. The technological means of transportation were inconvenient from this point onward, as they relied too much on the road. After abandoning their vehicles, the 8 people continued to advance. Instructor Luo Yunbo was a wind magician. He was scouting a path for them forward. Luo Yunbo's experience was far more abundant than Li Wenji's. He knew how to use his own wind trail magic to lure the magical beasts away, allowing them to directly pass through and not take detours. This kind of wind magician was very important to a squad, as they would be able to save a lot of time and everyone's energy. The road was quite long. There were too many things standing in the way of everyone. If they were able to save their energy, then they should. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.